Thinking about buying a franchise? Don't go it alone. Just like a buyer's agent in real estate, you deserve someone who's on your side every step of the way. That's where Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, comes in. Todd's consulting services are completely free to anyone looking to buy a franchise. He'll represent your interest, make sure all your questions are answered, and walk you through the entire buying process. With Todd in your corner, you'll have the best chance for success from your first call to the day you hold the keys to your new business. So before you buy a franchise, talk to someone who knows the industry inside and out and works for you. Call Todd Abraham, the franchise guy, today at 423-381-0925 for a free, no-pressure consultation. That's 423-381-0925. Your future in franchising starts here.
Good Friday afternoon. My name is Todd Abraham, and you are listening to the Franchise Flashlight podcast series on franchiseradio.net, and we have got a fun one for you today. Everybody talks about as we get older, being a kid at heart and a big kid at heart, and something I say on a somewhat regular basis. But after we get through this interview, you will see a man and meet a man who has turned being a kid at heart into a very successful franchise opportunity. So welcome, Mr. Danny Walls, to the podcast. How are you, my friend?
Doing well. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. Let's see. Tomorrow is July the 4th, our 250th anniversary for United States of America. I praise God for that. Thank God for the freedoms that we have. And thank God for the franchise opportunities that our economic freedom allows us, like this one. When Chris Connor first told me about this, and I started laughing. I mean, because I'd never heard of anything like it. And Danny, you are like, you're close to number 50 for franchisors I've interviewed on this podcast series. And so it takes a lot to surprise me, but you surely did. So tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm going to let you introduce the franchise.
Yeah. Danny Walls from Atlanta, Georgia, originally from Maryland. And we opened the business in 2016. At the time I'd been in sales for about 20 years. Now I've been in sales for 30 years. And it was just a side hustle. I'm working a full-time corporate job. My wife's working a full-time corporate job. And, maybe we can make a little extra money with these adult-sized big wheels that we have, as a rental or something like that. And quickly found that I didn't want to work 40 hours a week and then also sit in a rental tent somewhere along the Beltline in Atlanta for another 16 hours on the weekend, and realized it wouldn't really be beneficial or profitable, and started to look inward to our corporate lives and the corporate events and team building industry, and seeing what was wrong with it. We were looking at it from the inside out. We were employees that were doing all the team building events. We were going to Top Golf and Main Event and Andretti and axe throwing and doing some, scavenger hunt on an app, or sometimes they just went bowling, or sometimes they did, chips and queso at 3:30. And we said, well, there's a few problems with this. It's not engaging for everybody. Not everybody wanted to escape the room. Certainly when they did a zip line, I didn't do it. I went home.
Hey, and real quick, I mean, I never thought of, axe throwing as a team building event, because I would just think of two employees that really didn't like each other and the danger that could, derive from that.
True.
Yeah.
So, there was two things that kind of set this off. They did a team building event that was a zip line, and, I drove there, and sometimes they say they don't tell you, they give you an address. And I saw about 40% of the sales team standing in the parking lot looking up, just shaking their heads. And they're like, I'm not doing that. And they drove home as well as I did. And, the managers or HR had paid for everybody, but 40% of the people went home.
Right.
And then I saw my sales team throwing, like you said, throwing axes at a wall. And I said, what are they doing? These people are throwing axes.
That's
Those
crazy.
people over there are eating nachos. Some people are sitting on couches looking at their phone. People are going outside to, smoke or whatever. And I thought, this is not building a better team. This is not
Right.
engaging. It's
It's
not
more like a
inclusive.
social event. Yeah. Yeah.
And there was no ROI. So how do we fix those problems? Engagement, inclusivity, and an actual ROI. And that's how we built the company around those core values. So,
Yeah, and real quickly, let me just throw in there because I know you kind of mentioned it, but so what we're talking about here is adult size big wheels. That's right. Those three-wheel things that we all rode when we were kids. The two handles looks like a little Harley Davidson for little kids. And I was talking to Danny right before we started recording, and I said, "How fast will those things go?" He said, "As fast as your legs will turn them pedals." And I said, "Yeah, and or the hill that you how steep it is." But I'm telling you, you got to check out the website. It literally is adultbigwheelclub.com. And if you want to get a quick glimpse at the franchise opportunity, it's own adultbigwheelclub.com. So now you've seen this somewhere else and the light bulb went off in your head. It's like, hey, when you thought about the team building event, and then you had already seen the adult big wheel, so you thought, so kind of a light bulb went off, right?
well, when I originally got the big wheels for my wife and I had two of them because you kind of, as a middle-aged man, you'd look a little silly riding around Atlanta by yourself. So, starting to ride them in the beginning, what happened is in the genesis of this could be a business, people just kept asking us, every 100 feet we would go, hey, where did you get that?
Yeah.
And they thought we had rented them or they just wanted to be on it. People were stopping their cars, rolling down the windows. It, is that a big wheel for adults? Is it really? It looks like, and I'm like, it is. And
That's,
so, to backtrack a
that's
little bit, that
awesome.
was the genesis to say, hey, we originally bought them for fun, but seeing how many people wanted to be on them, that's like, okay, well, let's turn this into something profitable. And then the idea for team building grew from our own frustration with the existing offerings. They just weren't
Right.
doing everything. And it was, the cliched, we sat down at the kitchen table, we had pieces of paper, and we said, we have to figure out how can we make this into a game or gamified challenge that is team building, but checks all the boxes. Number one, it's got to be engaging for
Right.
everybody. It
Everyone.
has to
That's
be
right.
inclusive. So it can't be a race because that would be based on physical ability. People on my sales team were 25. People on my sales team were 68.
Right.
People are in shape. People are out of shape. Has to be inclusive and not about physical. And then how do you make it team building? How do you check all those boxes and give the client an ROI? So we developed a proprietary challenge based on three things, and we call them our team building core values: communication skills, memory, and being consistent with detailed information. And that is what the game is about. I don't give too much of it away because it's, there's trademarks and we're probably going to go into a patent pending status on it soon. But the challenge is 100% about communication, memory, being consistent with detailed information. So it does look like a race course, and that's a little bit of a trick. There's a 30-foot start line. There's a big PA system with music. There's all the cones. There's 15-foot flags. We're on a wireless mic system. They feel like they're at a race course, but the
Yeah.
game that they're going to do, nothing to do with their physical ability, nothing to do with speed. Doesn't matter if they're 25 or 75. It's all about communication skills, memory, consistency of detailed information. And
That's very cool.
we did go one step further. So I noticed, and most of our clients noticed, that personality is something hard to control in these events. If you get alpha personalities, they like to take over escape rooms. They like to take over challenges. They like to take over scavenger hunts. And your more passive people, on your team are holding back, or they're just not involved at the same level. It's not consistent. They're being more passive where other people are leading. And this would drive me nuts. If you're paying for a team building event, everybody should be involved at the same level.
That's right.
But how do you make that happen? So this is another thing we built into the game. There's no way for any one person to lead their team. There's no way for anybody to follow. The only way that a team can win their challenge is each individual person has to contribute to those 3 core values at the same level. There's no way to do it any other way. They will lose.
So
how
long did it take you and your wife to develop this?
Well, we're going back about 10 years now, so I don't remember. I do remember sitting at the table, and I'm sure it was probably over the course of a weekend, and drawing it out and figuring out how this game would work. And then once it was on paper, then I had to build it.
Yes.
So it was literally, going to, the Lowe's and buying materials and testing it and figuring out how do I build this to where, these are components that I can take that will be durable. And we're constantly improving that. I just received a box of factory made components that's going to replace some of our components that's a little bit more heavy duty, so we can upgrade how the game works and make it more durable for franchisees and so forth. So,
well, me being a creative person, that's something I would totally enjoy. I love the whole creative process. So if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Danny Walls. Him and his wife, Marty Walls, have developed a team building franchise that you can buy, become a franchisee, and sponsor, not sponsor, but have these corporations hire you to come out and do the team building experience with something that there is nothing even remotely close to it. I mean, anywhere in the country. So to say that it is a one of a kind is 100% true. Again, the website is ownadultbigwheelclub.com. And I don't know, I imagine people have the same reaction, but the first time you see this big wheel, if you don't laugh, I think maybe something's wrong with you. Because again, until I seen this the first time, I was like, I don't know they existed. But now tell me about there's a gentleman that makes these specifically for you, right? These are not something you just go buy anywhere.
I mean, you can. I mean, they're not cheap. They're about $1,600 a piece, and there's one man that makes them. I'm on a very, very good relationship with him, but he only makes a couple hundred of them about every 5 years. So it's not a mass-produced product. In my life, I mean, I've seen a handful of them in person that are not the ones that we own.
Right.
So it's there's some of them out there, but there's not a lot of them, and it's not something that most people are going to spend that kind of money on to have for themselves. So the guy that made him, he's an ex aerospace engineer, and he left aerospace engineering because he wanted to have a big wheel for adults, and he developed it and made them exactly the way they should be. There's one or two other companies that try to make, they call it an adult drift trike. They don't even come close.
Right.
There's nothing close to what this guy makes. And the look of it and the feel and the sound to me was the most nostalgic. The way that plastic tire sounds on the pavement, it took me back to 1982, and I was like, there I am. I'm on my big wheel.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was great.
Now, here's just a funny off-the-wall question. It's nothing what we're talking about, but in a city or state where they require bike helmets, would somebody have to wear a bike helmet riding one of these?
Sure. I mean, you can put on your regular bike helmets. We have, adjustable helmets and things like that. Of course, it's much safer than a bicycle.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's, you're about, you know, 11 or 12 inches off the ground. So you're not very, and your center of gravity is very low. So,
Oh, yeah.
it's, it's a lot safer than a bike. They don't have gears. So of course they can't go as fast as a bike.
But they do
Um,
have handbrakes, I noticed.
they do have handbrakes. Yes. The
That's
brake.
good. The old big wheels, the little big, the wee ones, they didn't have any handbrakes.
No, they stop pretty nice, but they also do the other things that big wheels did. If you want to power slide it and do a nice power slide or a 180, it feels exactly the same.
That is so cool.
And
Yeah, I was a tanker in the Army many years ago, and there's nothing more exhilarating than driving a 63-ton vehicle at 35 miles an hour because the steering mechanism like a handlebar on a motorcycle. And you turn that handlebar all the way to the left, and that thing goes into a power slide. Oh my God, that's just dreamy fun right there. So let's talk about numbers. First of all, let's talk about who is your ideal candidate.
I mean, there's a lot of different people that can do this. I came from an office and sales background, so I was good with talking with people. I'd been in sales at the time for 20 some years. Um, whether it was phone sales or in-person sales, I'd sold all kinds of products. And that gave me a benefit that I didn't know that I had, was being able to talk in front of a crowd of people on a microphone. Never had done it before in my life. Um, and the first time I really did it was the first event we did. I grabbed the microphone and I'm like, okay, well, I've got to do it. So, it's somebody does have to be comfortable on a microphone in front of a group of people, because you are the coach. You are, uh, you know, the master of ceremonies, the MC. Um, so that's one of the components. Most people are probably going to do this as an owner operator. You know, sometimes we do hire some 1099 workers to help us out on bigger events, but generally my wife and I, we do the events, together. So, I'm driving the truck, I'm setting up the truck, setting up the event, and, I'm breaking it down and hosting it and so forth. So generally a franchisee, it's not a hands-off business. This is a business. You will be the face of the business. You will be in front of, you know, a group of Fortune 100 executives from around the world, or maybe a group of orthodontists from the local orthodontist office. So there's any and every type of demographic that you're going to be in front of. And, that archetype is a person that is, good at sales, good at talking to people, personable, can do both phone sales, can do both sales in person, and really just loves to see people have fun. Um, you're really contributing to the benefit of the client. The clients love the events. Our reviews prove that. And
Well, you've probably never seen more grown people smile at all kind of different levels of corporate, leadership, all
absolutely,
consecutively, I mean, because that's what I can see. I can just see, even the ones who are, like stiff-necked at work and very, literal, I could just see every single person just these big grins on their faces, because again, I mean, like I said, I just turned 58 yesterday, and until Chris told me something about this, I was like, I didn't even know that there was such a thing as an adult big wheel. Now, somebody, I think another, and you could tell me if I'm right or not, but I would think a big advantage for a franchisee candidate would be somebody who has what you said, that ability to be the face of the event, be on the microphone, and direct it, but also to have a corporate background would be a huge plus for them, right?
yeah. I mean, that you really do understand where the bulk of your clients are coming from, what they've been through. Um, when we're talking to our clients and I'm standing in front of them, I ask them, what team building events have you done? And of course they shout them out. And it's all the same stuff that I went through as a corporate employee. And I said, well, today we're going to disrupt that and you're going to do something completely different. And, that does help. Now, do they have to be from that background? No.
Right.
We've had people interested that are, you know, uh, they also own a wedding DJ business. Well, a wedding DJ has to set up equipment. They're on a microphone. They have to be professional in front of all kinds of clients because
Right.
they're an MC. And also they usually only work on Saturdays and Sundays, and most of our events are Monday through Friday. So,
Right.
people that have that type of business, already are kind of a perfect candidate as well. And just, anybody that's looking to, you know, own a business where they're the face of the business, they control it, and the sky is really the limit.
Oh, yeah.
Many of the markets are going to be much bigger than Atlanta. And that's our goal, is to have the other markets be bigger than here.
Yeah, we talked about that on the phone. We first talked about this whole thing, that the bigger cities are actually more of a great opportunity for the Adult Big Wheel Club than a lot of other franchises, because that's obviously where you have a lot of corporations, like New York, Los Angeles, I'd say Boston, well, and the list goes on, Philadelphia. So, I think those are the bigger cities are great, great markets for this awesome business opportunity. So let's talk about the cost for somebody to buy into the franchise, and then, like you've already mentioned, about the normal time you do the events. But let's go into that part of it.
Sure.
And again, if you're tuning in, you haven't checked it out yet, check out the website. It's spelled just like it sounds, ownadultbigwheelclub.com. And of course, the regular website is just adultbigwheelclub.com. We're talking with Danny Walls, and him and his wife have built a very cool business here. But go ahead, Danny.
So, as far as the franchise fees and the total investment,
Right.
so the franchise fee is $40,000, and then your total investment, which including the franchise fee, working capital, and all the equipment, is going to be between 90 and 150,000. And there's a couple
Very
different
good.
options, depending on how they want to set up their business.
How many big wheels do they get when they purchase, when they buy a franchise?
The minimum is going to be 6. We do recommend having 8. Most people will probably opt for the 8, just to make sure they have a full set. And it's either going to be, on the lower end of the price spectrum, is going to be a trailer, which is equipped with everything you need for the event. And then on the higher end, it's going to be a truck.
Like a box truck?
Yeah, depends on
Yeah.
what people like. I don't like trailering things, so I have a truck. And that's really up to the franchisee. If they already have a pickup or a tow vehicle, and they're comfortable with towing, it's a good bit lower cost of entry to do the trailer.
Oh, yeah. Now, what is the monthly royalty?
It's 10%.
10%. And then, do you have a marketing percentage that they are required to pay every month?
I believe the marketing percentage, I don't have the FDD stuff in front of me. I know the national one is 2%, and then marketing, it's about $1,000 a month is where we find kind of the sweet spot is. Now, some people
Right.
might want to do more. They might want to do a little bit less. In the beginning, I'm going to suggest to them that it's nothing less than that. Just as we ramp up, we're established enough here now that our spend is a little bit lower than that.
Wow.
But we just have so many referrals and things like that. It's not needed. But there's 1% annually that's to the national as we grow out.
Well, the cool thing is, every time you or a franchisee does an event, that's advertising in and of itself. I mean, because again, you see these grown people riding around these adult big wheels. You're like, I mean, how could a person not, just grab their attention and say, "What is that?" So that's very cool. Now, give us an idea of what the average event cost is that someone's going to charge a corporation, like from like the minimum to the maximum. Again, just a ballpark figure, so they can kind of get an idea of what kind of revenue they could be looking at.
So I believe last year the average event price was $3,400 per event. Now we have a model where about 90% of what we do is corporate, but we also do some events for students, for churches, for schools, teaching staff, and I'll run those events at a lower cost, or I will negotiate with them. Now, generally, I don't try to do any event for less than $1,500 or $1,600.
Right.
Now, have we done events less than that when people negotiated? And, if I'm off on a Thursday, I'm making a decision. Do I want to leave the house for $1,000? Franchisees will be able to make that decision as well, because there are some clients, I'll have people want to book us for a very small event for a church, and that's all the budget they have. Well, if I'm not working that day and I feel like doing it, absolutely.
Right.
Then you're going to be offset with your larger corporate clients. Those average, like I said, they average in the $3,400 range. There's events in the $4,000 range, the $5,000, the $6,000, the $7,000, the $8,000 range, the $18,000 range.
Wow.
We've done an event for $45,000 for one of them. So
that's awesome. One of the things that I like about this is that once they make that initial investment and get all their equipment, the big wheels and everything, that is a fixed cost that just, to me, seems like they're easy to recoup because you're not having to replace your inventory every, 6 months to a year. It's different from like a restaurant franchise or something where you're selling goods and you have to replenish those goods. Your inventory is fixed. So, and by that, what I'm trying to say is it makes your overhead lower.
Absolutely. People, they can't believe what our margins are. A lot of the folks in the franchise industry, including Chris and folks were like, your margins are incredible. Nobody has those margins because there's not a lot of costs involved. Once we have the equipment, there's a few things. You have to have tires. You have to have brake pads. You have to have, small things, sunscreen is your shirts. Your shirts might get dirty and things. You need new shirts. But as far as the equipment, I have big wheels that I've had for 10 years.
Right.
The thing I've done is change tires and brakes. That's it.
We put that sucker up on blocks, change them brake pads, and they're rip-roaring ready to go.
Oh yeah, we do pit stops all the time, and
oh, that's great. That's great.
Get out the impact wrench and we change the tire real quick, and it looks just like a NASCAR pit stop.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so the costs, there's not a lot to it. It's your marketing costs, your insurance costs. If you have a vehicle, you have a vehicle payment. But, there's not a lot, as far as, equipment costs and things like that. It's
no storefront to manage, no monthly leases, because again, they can do this from the comfort of their home or as their home is their base of operations. Let me just take a quick second to throw this in. You're listening to the Franchise Flashlight podcast series on franchiseradio.net. This is sponsored by Franchise Marketing Systems, which is the #1 company in America to create a franchise out of your business model. I should say in America and in Canada. So if you're a business owner like Danny and you're looking to create a professional franchise in every aspect out of your business model, Franchise Marketing Systems is your go-to company. And what do you do if you want to get in touch with them? You simply reach out to me, Todd Abraham, at 423-381-0925, and we'll get you set up with a free absolutely no pressure consultation and let you know if A, is your business ready to franchise? If it's not ready to franchise, what do you need? What things do you need to do to get it to that point? And then we'll tell you about the 11 to 12 things that franchise marketing system does for you, which again creates that amazing franchise for you. And if you're someone looking to buy a franchise, we offer that buyer's agent service to help you find the right franchise, walk you through the buying process like a buyer's agent real estate transaction. And that's something that we can help you with as well. And as I said, we're talking with Danny Walls here from adultbigwheelclub.com. And Danny, so you just became a franchise. Was it this year?
Yeah, the FDD was completed just at the beginning of the year. So I think we started about mid-January when everything was just ready to roll.
Well, this is another fun fact. I mean, like I get kid at heart. Hey, somebody doesn't have to learn how to ride the big wheel. I mean, that's pretty common sense. So really the biggest challenge for a franchisee is just learning how to market, how to promote it, and you're going to train them on how to do all that.
Yeah, I mean, everybody will be trained and they'll learn, everything that we learned over the past 10 years because we've hosted over 500 events, over 13,000 individual people. So we've seen every possible eventuality, everything, pitfall, anything, with events set up or running an event, that could be an issue. And we'll be easily able to train them on that. So they're going to do training, here with us in Atlanta. They're going to come, there'll be some classroom based training where we go over, sales technique, what we do, all the proprietary, how our gaming works, how events are set up, and things like that. Then we're going to do some mock events. We're going to go with them. We're going to set the entire event up. We're going to, run through it. We're going to tear it down. We're going to show them on site all of the different things that to watch out for and to make sure that everything goes smooth for them and their clients.
On average, about how long does it take to do the initial setup and then to do the takedown once the event's over?
Well, when I started, I was younger, so I could do it in about an hour and 15 minutes. Now I take my time. I give myself 2 hours to set the event, but I set some of it up. I take a break. I sit down. I don't rush through it. Could somebody set it up in an hour? Probably. If, but, we say 2 hours, arrive at your venue 2 hours ahead of time. That's going to give you plenty of time to not feel rushed, make sure if there's a repair that you need to repair, replace a tire, things like that. You're doing that before the client arrives. You're going to host the event. The event's going to last a minimum. We request a minimum from our clients of an hour and 15 minutes. And 95% of events are going to be less than 2 hours. Most of them are an hour and a half, maybe an hour and 40 minutes. 95% of events will never go past that unless it's a really, really big event.
So do you ever do 2 events in one day?
Sure.
Yep.
I don't like to, but I do.
Right. But you can is what I'm saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we plan that out in a couple different scenarios. So the breakdown of the event and packing it is much quicker. That can be 45 minutes to an hour to get everything broken down back into the truck. So the best case scenario is if I've booked a venue for client A at, 11 a.m., we do their event is done, and they're done at 12:45. At 1 p.m., I have another client come into that same venue.
Right.
The event's already set up. And this happens occasionally.
That's a good idea.
That's the best thing. And you're only setting up and tearing down once. This is the dream scenario, but occasionally client A will need a venue, but client B would like you to come to their office park. So that's where we work out some logistics. Okay, I have to finish this event at this time. I give myself an hour to pack. How long does it take me to drive to the second location? When I get there, taking in traffic, in any metro area. What's the traffic at that time?
Right.
You know, can I get there? Give myself enough time to set that event for that client's time slot. And when that can happen, we'll do it. And, clients and, will usually work with us. We'll tell them, this is the time slot I have available for that day. And occasionally, a client won't be ready at that time, or they'll need it earlier in the day. And then we do try to book them for an alternate date, but two in one day is possible.
How do you deal with weather restrictions, like in the winter months when it's colder and of course, like here, it seemed like the skies could open up at any minute, because we got some pretty gnarly thunderstorms lurking in the area. So how do you deal with is there an ideal place where people could probably do these things indoors that would be available in every city, maybe?
Yeah. And that's something that we figured out a couple years back. The kind of the holy grail is an affordable indoor venue that you can rent. Nobody's going to want to buy a multi-million-dollar, 20 or 30,000 square foot warehouse. And so, we're going to look at the weather. 90% of the events are going to be outdoor events. We're looking at the weather before we get in the truck and drive there.
Right.
If I see there's going to be any problems, I inform the client. It's in their contract that if we need to delay the event till a shower moves through, or if it's going to be a rain out, they have a certain time period, usually 6 to 12 months, that they can reschedule their event. We hold on to their deposit. We apply their deposit to the rescheduled event. And I've never had a client have a problem with that.
And what is the typical, I'm sorry, what is the typical deposit? 25%, 50%?
50%.
50. Okay, good.
The balance is due on the day of the event. When we conclude the event, we want them to hand us a check or swipe us a card, particularly swipe a card, because then they'll tip, and the tips can be can be very good.
And don't try to run, because I know how to chase you down on my big wheel, buddy. Come on.
That's something I didn't learn till later on. After a year or so, I realized there was a tip toggle inside of our credit card swiper, and I toggled it on, and I didn't know that in the beginning, the first couple years. We did it about
how much money did I lose?
Well, I can tell you the last two events. This week the tip was $550, and last week the tip was $800.
Wow, that's awesome.
So the tips they're good.
Well, hey, and that's something that you worked out for your franchisees, so they can start from ground zero getting those big tips. That's awesome.
Absolutely, turn that on, and with a smile when they sign, they usually hit the tip button. And,
okay, I have to ask this question. We're getting it ready to wrap it up here, but this is a fun question. So, who is the faster on the big wheel, you or your wife?
It's me. It is.
I just got you in trouble.
Sometimes our clients will ask us to race them.
Oh yeah.
And I usually beat the clients, but as I'm getting older, I've tended to not do the races anymore, because then I tell them if I win, then they have to help me clean up the entire event. They have to pick up all the cones. That's
right. That's awesome. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed this. Again, it's not often that I, especially doing these kind of interviews, that I see something like this. And every time I think about it, it just brings joy to my heart, So again, we're talking with Danny Walls. This is the Adult Big Wheel Club franchise. And what it consists of is you as a franchisee going out there and selling these events to corporate and other types of clients for team building exercises. And Danny and his wife have developed a proprietary team building exercise, which literally make sure that every single team member from these corporations, companies, are involved on an equal level. The franchise fee is $40,000. The initial estimated investment, which includes the franchise fee, is between $90,000 and $150,000. That's very good in today's market. The royalty is 10% monthly. And like Danny was saying, they're going to provide you with hands-on training in Atlanta. And I imagine, Danny, once they are trained, ready to go, that either you or your wife will go to their respective city and help them with like their first event or whatever.
Yeah, that's part of the training. So once they get back, they get their equipment, their marketing's up and running. They're going to get calls, because there's nothing like it in their market.
That's right.
And they're going to own their entire market. If somebody's in Dallas, there's only one adult big wheel club in Dallas. So
That's great.
they will get calls. And once they book that first event, we will be there with them. And, we'll walk through that entire event with them. Hopefully, if there's more than one event booked within a time period, we'll be there for multiple ones. But we're going to go there. With their setup, we're going to do a mock setup first.
Right.
Make sure all the equipment's there, everything's working right before they do an event. And then we'll be there for their actual first client event. We'll also work with them on, how do they find the venues? Because there's two parts to this. We're going to the client's location, office, park, wherever, and we look at that via Google Earth and determine where we can place the event outside of their building. The other part is people that don't have space for it. Maybe it's a big downtown area and there's just a parking deck under the building or just, some space that won't work. Or
Right.
they're a small dentist office and they share a medical building with, 15 other clients and there's no space in a parking lot. So we'll source those venues for the client and we'll help the franchisees in their market. We're going to start seeding them with these are the venues you should be looking at and partnering with. If you need help, if they need a referral, we'll be there to help you. And those could be municipalities where you're renting from the city, whether it's a park or something like that. We do rent a lot of church spaces because churches tend to have nice big empty parking lots Monday
Yep.
through Friday.
That's right.
And one of our locations that we rent most of the time is a church. We've been doing it for 9 years. They like us so much. I have a key to the church.
That's cool.
When it's closed, I just text them and I'm going to be there at 1:00, and they just say, okay, just take the trash out and lock the door.
Yeah. That's
We open the bathrooms up for the people and we use their parking lot. And then the other option is, of course, finding the indoor spaces.
Right.
And every city is going to have them. They're a little bit harder to get, but once you get them and negotiate with them, those are going to be, the ace up your sleeve when a customer has the budget and they're flying people in from around the world. They've got 1 day to do this. Offer them the indoor venue.
Right.
Right now we have 3. We have one that's an outdoor pavilion that we've located. It's about 20,000 square feet.
Wow.
With a roof over it, but it's open to the sides. So
Right.
just a giant concrete slab with a roof and fans. It's fantastic. We rent it from the city. Very, very reasonable price. Downtown, we have a partner that rents us a 20,000 square foot expo hall.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, absolutely.
They rent it to us at a very competitive rate, 70% off what the public can rent it for.
That's awesome.
We also do their Christmas party for free every year. So do the trade.
I hear you.
And then another one, we have 160 and a 200,000 square foot expo hall that we just negotiated with at a very, very reasonable rate. So
yeah, they've got places like here. I know in Knoxville where they do like a trade show. I know there's one there where they've got one. So someone listens to the podcast again. Check out the website ownadultbigwheelclub.com. Again, the primary website adultbigwheelclub.com. You want to give them your direct phone number? They can contact you if they want more information.
Sure. Yeah, you can reach out to me via text or you can call me. It's 770-940-9896. And that's my direct number. It's also on our website. So if you look it up, it's right there. You can give us a call, shoot me a text if you want to set up a Zoom or a Q&A, happy to do that.
Absolutely. And also on the franchise information website, ownadultbigwheelclub.com, you can request a brochure there, and get more information. So, and if you also are interested in buying this franchise, you need more information, you can reach out to me directly, Todd Abraham, 423-381-0925. Danny and I are both on Eastern Standard Time. In fact, his hometown is where I was born and raised, in the Atlanta area, Marietta to be exact. Any final words before we wrap it up, Danny?
No, I appreciate you having me on, and we're just looking forward to expanding and sharing the fun and sharing the business with other franchisees, and just allowing people to kind of live the dream that we did by escaping our 9 to 5 and doing something fun and unique for a living. And I'm really excited about that portion of it.
Yeah, and like we was talking about, we'll wrap it up with this, but there is nothing else like this out there anywhere in the country for corporate team building events. And that's one thing that I love about it. Well, Danny, thanks so much. Again, you are listening to the Franchise Flashlight podcast series on franchiseradio.net. We are available on most all the major podcast networks like Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Music, Podbean, Deezer, which I don't know who come up with a name for a podcast platform called Deezer, but we're also on that one as well, about 12 to 15. And you can download the episodes, and you surely, we please ask you to follow us. And until next time, Lord will, we'll see you then.